Welcome back to our channel, where we bring you the latest updates and untold stories about Catherine, Princess of Wales, and her royal family. Today, however, we step into the world of a different royal family, one that has faced the unthinkable. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, once the modern face of a progressive royal family, now find themselves at the epicenter of a storm that could destroy everything they've worked for in the United States. This is a story of rapid descent, a scandal that could unravel their carefully crafted American dream, and the shocking ultimatum that the US government has handed them. Their future is now hanging in the balance, and with it, the prospects of their entire family. A source has come forward with a staggering revelation. Prince Harry and Meghan were allegedly detained by US Customs and Border Protection after suspicions arose that they were attempting to bring illegal drugs into the country. This bombshell claim not only threatens their American life, but also jeopardizes their ability to stay in the United States. To put it bluntly, Harry's visa is now in a perilous situation. What was once a bright and promising future is now clouded with uncertainty. Their American dream could be in ruins, and with it, all the plans they had for a life of privacy and independence. For those watching from the outside, this is an incredibly serious development. The couple's carefully managed image of freedom and progressive ideals in California is now at risk of crumbling. This isn't just about the couple's personal reputation. This is about their very ability to live in the country. To understand the full weight of this situation, we must delve deeper into the implications of what this accusation means for Harry and Meghan, and the broader political landscape in which it exists. It's a perfect storm, a culmination of political agendas, legal maneuvers, and royal drama that threatens to pull them back to the one institution they tried so hard to escape: the monarchy. This all unfolds against the backdrop of the cold, clinical halls of US political power and the bustling, chaotic energy of a modern-day press conference, where words are weapons, and every comment has the potential to ignite a scandal. Donald J. Trump's administration was notorious for causing controversy, and his words about the Duke and Duchess of Sussex have already sent shockwaves through the political world. Trump's brand of political theater has always been one of blunt, sometimes dangerous rhetoric, and this latest remark about Harry and Meghan is no different. His words seem to drip with the kind of anticipation that suggests he was looking forward to the drama it would inevitably stir. It has been reported that Trump referred to Harry and Meghan in the most dismissive terms: Harry and that awful Meghan. In this one sentence, he not only attacked their character but also hinted at the darker accusations swirling around them. The implication was clear. The couple, despite their carefully constructed image, was still tied to drugs. This is more than just a political jab. It's an attack on their very credibility and legitimacy in the United States. And in a country with strict immigration laws and a volatile political climate, this accusation could have serious consequences. Stuck in a tense situation at US Customs, Harry and Meghan were left with few options. Their only escape was to quickly retreat to England and seek the help of King Charles, their father, in an attempt to navigate the legal minefield they now faced. Trump's words, though casual, were calculated, and the impact was immediate. His comment wasn't just a petty insult. It was a declaration of political warfare, aimed directly at the heart of the Sussexes' American existence. For Prince Harry and Meghan, the ramifications of this accusation could be nothing short of catastrophic. Being detained at the US border over drug suspicions isn't just embarrassing, it's dangerous. It threatens to destroy the carefully curated persona they've worked so hard to build in California, a life based on freedom, independence, and progressive values. Now, instead of being viewed as a couple who broke away from the royal family to live a new life, they risk being painted as criminals in a country that has strict immigration laws and a zero-tolerance approach to drug-related offenses. The seriousness of this situation cannot be overstated. To fully understand what's at stake, we need to look at the complex, and sometimes harsh, nature of US immigration policy, especially in the context of Trump's America First approach. Under this administration, the rules were rigid, and the consequences for breaking them were severe. Even an accusation like this, regardless of its veracity, can have lasting effects on an individual's ability to stay in the U.S. once an allegation like this appears in government databases. It becomes part of the permanent record, triggering further investigations and scrutiny. The political ramifications are far-reaching, and the couple's ability to recover from this is uncertain. In light of the Trump administration's zero-tolerance stance on immigration violations, this incident could lead to further legal battles and complications for Harry and Meghan. The possibility of secondary inspection at the border, where passengers are questioned, their belongings are searched, and their every move is scrutinized, becomes a very real threat. For a couple who had hoped to build a future away from the public eye, the very idea of having their lives dissected by government agencies is a nightmare come to life. The stress, the public embarrassment, and the looming threat of deportation are weighing heavily on them. This turn of events is not just a blow to their image. It's a fundamental challenge to the life they've been building in the U.S. Their identity as progressive, forward-thinking royals who have broken free from the constraints of the monarchy is now in jeopardy. Instead of being celebrated as pioneers of a new royal era, they are now trapped in a legal and political quagmire, unsure of what the future holds. This is a situation where Harry and Meghan's carefully crafted narrative of independence and freedom is unraveling. Their public image, once a symbol of hope and change, now feels fragile and uncertain. The allegations and political commentary surrounding them are forcing them to confront a reality they never expected. What was supposed to be their escape from the royal constraints now seems like a gilded cage, with the walls closing in around them. The future of the Sussexes hangs in the balance, as their past decisions collide with the harsh realities of their present circumstances. The fight to stay in the U.S. could lead to further legal battles, political attacks, and a public relations nightmare from which they may not recover. Whether they can weather this storm and reclaim their place in the public eye is yet to be seen. But one thing is clear: the journey they embarked on with such optimism and hope has taken an unexpected and dangerous turn. Immigration experts agree that any allegation, especially one coming from a figure like Donald Trump, cannot be dismissed lightly. Even if these allegations are ultimately proven to be false, the damage has already been done. Such claims will remain in the U.S. Customs and Border Protection (CBP) and Department of Homeland Security (DHS) databases, becoming part of a permanent record. This opens the door for what is known as a secondary inspection, a process that is both invasive and deeply uncomfortable for anyone involved. It is a time-consuming procedure, one that subjects travelers to intense scrutiny. Passengers can be pulled aside, questioned in great detail, and have their personal belongings thoroughly examined. For Prince Harry, whose visa status is already under intense scrutiny, this would be a nightmare scenario, a situation where the consequences go far beyond an embarrassing inconvenience. For someone already teetering on the edge of legal jeopardy, this only intensifies the fear of a potentially disastrous outcome. The mental toll on Harry and Meghan has been almost immeasurable. After years of careful maneuvering to control their narrative, first with the bombshell Oprah Winfrey interview, then the revealing Netflix documentary series, and finally Harry's deeply personal memoir, they are now left with very little to push back with. Trump has masterfully turned the tables, shifting the narrative from one of royal rebellion and personal growth to one of scandal and desperation. His words, carefully crafted, painted them as drug-addicted, attention-seeking refugees, desperate to cling to relevance in a world they no longer seem to belong to. This shift is not just a blow to their personal lives, but to their carefully constructed public personas. Their brand, built on hope, change, and a new identity in America, is now at risk of being destroyed by these new allegations. The storm that has been unleashed threatens to consume not just their peace of mind, but their entire future in America. Their dream home in Montecito, California, a place they had chosen to escape the shackles of royal life, now seems precarious, like a house of cards teetering on the edge of collapse. What was once a symbol of freedom, independence, and the chance to live a life free of royal constraints is now a prison, held together by the very titles and legacies they tried so hard to distance themselves from. In a political climate that is both volatile and unpredictable, their royal status, which they once hoped would grant them a sense of security and stability, has now become a glaring target. Far from offering protection, their titles have made them prime targets for those eager to see them fail. The allegations swirling around them now threaten their mental well-being, their freedom, and their long-term future in the country they sought to make their new home. A forced reckoning. This crisis didn't begin with a rally or a public outburst. It began quietly, behind the closed doors of Prince Harry's deeply personal memoir, Spare. Released in 2023, the book was meant to be a cathartic release, an opportunity for Harry to share the painful, raw details of his life, a life shaped by grief, loss, and the crushing expectations of royal duty. In the book, Harry opens up about the deep sorrow he felt after the tragic death of his mother, Diana. He talks about the strain of living in the royal family and the unspoken fractures within his family. But along with these emotional revelations, he made confessions that have come back to haunt him in ways he likely never anticipated. Harry admitted to using cocaine during his youth, calling it a foolish attempt to numb his pain. He acknowledged using cannabis on the grounds of Kensington Palace, a way to cope with the unbearable grief that haunted him in the aftermath of his mother's death. He even shared an offbeat story about a California party where someone used psychedelic mushrooms, a tale that many readers found bizarre, yet humanizing. For many, these were the missteps of a troubled young man seeking solace in the wrong places, actions that they felt sympathy for. But for others, particularly conservative watchdogs and immigration lawyers, these admissions were not just personal failures, they were formal confessions of guilt. The words Harry used were no longer just his own, they became evidence in a case that would have significant legal consequences. Under U.S. immigration law, this is a dangerous situation. When applying for a visa, applicants are asked a clear, direct question on forms like the DS-160. Have you ever violated or conspired to violate any law related to controlled substances? A simple yes to this question is enough to trigger an automatic denial of a visa. The U.S. immigration system does not allow for nuance or the context of personal growth or rehabilitation. For Prince Harry, his past actions may very well come back to haunt him, no matter how much he may have changed or how much time has passed. The legal ramifications of these admissions are both serious and far-reaching. The legal battle. Harry's path to the U.S. in 2020 was likely aided by a special visa, perhaps the O-1 visa, designed for individuals of extraordinary ability or achievement, or possibly a diplomatic A-1 visa. However, the specifics of how he entered the country remain shrouded in mystery. What is clear, however, is that honesty about any past drug use is a critical factor in any visa application. What Harry told U.S. immigration authorities is now the center of an ongoing legal battle. And this legal fight is about much more than just one man's past. It is about the broader issue of whether those in positions of power and privilege are subject to the same legal standards as ordinary citizens. The Heritage Foundation, a well-known conservative think tank, has taken up the cause, suing the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, under the Freedom of Information Act (FOIA, to release Harry's immigration records. Their argument is rooted in the idea that the public has a right to know whether Harry received special treatment in his visa application. If Harry did not fully disclose his past drug use, then the question must be asked: did the Biden administration overlook these violations in a bid to offer him preferential treatment? The case has gained traction, with the Heritage Foundation demanding transparency and accountability. They argue that this case is about more than just Harry's personal immigration status. It's about whether the rich, famous, and royal are held to the same standards as regular citizens. The outcome of this case could set a dangerous precedent, one that could forever alter the way that immigration laws are applied to individuals in positions of wealth and power. In March 2025, a federal court ordered the release of certain documents related to Prince Harry's immigration status. However, the documents were heavily redacted, with entire sections blacked out, raising further suspicions among critics. The Department of Homeland Security, DHS, maintains that no special favors were granted to Prince Harry, yet the secrecy surrounding the heavily edited files only fuels conspiracy theories. For Prince Harry, this prolonged court battle is undoubtedly causing immense mental strain. What was meant to be a cathartic release, a personal attempt to shed the weight of his royal duties through his memoir, Spare, has instead become a weapon used against him. His quest to free himself from the royal burden has only entrenched him deeper under the legal microscope, further scrutinized in the public eye. As Prince Harry's legal troubles mount, an ironic twist emerges from Meghan Markle's own family. Her nephew, Tyler Dooley, has built a highly successful cannabis business in the state of Oregon, where marijuana is legally sold for recreational use. Dooley, a self-proclaimed pioneer in the cannabis industry, has gone even further, creating a hybrid strain of marijuana called Markle Sparkle, a tribute to Meghan and Harry's wedding. Dooley's business, which spans acres of farmland and employs dozens of people, stands in stark contrast to the traditional values of the British monarchy. The contrast becomes even more pronounced when we consider the legal landscape of the United Kingdom, where cannabis remains a Class B drug, punishable by up to 5 years in prison for possession and up to 14 years for supply. This deepens the irony. While Meghan's nephew capitalizes on the burgeoning legal cannabis industry in the US, the same substance could land a British citizen in jail. The cultural chasm between the progressive, free-market cannabis industry in the US and the stringent, conservative laws of the UK further highlights the complex, often contradictory nature of Meghan's family ties. While Harry and Meghan have faced backlash for their association with cannabis, Meghan's family has built an empire off it, raising uncomfortable questions about the couple's image and their values. As Harry's visa situation becomes more precarious, speculation begins to swirl about the once unthinkable idea of him returning to the UK. However, this wouldn't be a victorious return to the monarchy. It would be a forced retreat, an outcome driven not by choice, but by legal and personal crises. Reports suggest that Harry has reached out to King Charles for help, fearing the imminent loss of his US visa. This potential return to the UK would be fraught with tension, as it would require Harry and Meghan to re-enter the very institution they publicly disavowed. King Charles, already grappling with his own health struggles, faces an incredibly difficult decision. On one hand, as a father, his instinct is to protect his son. But on the other hand, he is the king of the United Kingdom, and his primary duty is to the crown and the institution. Allowing Harry and Meghan back into the royal fold would risk reopening old wounds, potentially plunging the monarchy into a new wave of media chaos. In a political climate where the monarchy is under intense scrutiny, especially after years of drama surrounding Harry and Meghan, this could undermine the fragile stability King Charles is striving to maintain. Meanwhile, Prince William, the heir to the throne, remains steadfastly opposed to any potential return. He views Harry's revelations in Spare, particularly the detailed accounts of their private disagreements and the publicized physical altercation, as personal insults not just to him, but to the monarchy as a whole. For Prince William, Harry's actions have crossed a line that may never be repaired. Harry, in his role as a former royal, now represents a disruption to the very institution he was once meant to uphold. As the Sussexes, legal battles, drug allegations, and family feuds collide, the brand they once carefully built is now crumbling under the weight of these mounting crises. What was once a symbol of hope and change now seems like a distant dream. Their story, which once captured the imagination of millions, now appears to be unraveling, thread by thread. Their ambitions in Hollywood, once full of promise, now seem out of reach as their legal and financial troubles intensify. Their relationship with major companies like Netflix and Spotify, both of which had offered them a global platform, has produced unpredictable outcomes, further complicating their already fragile public image. Their once strong message of compassion, advocacy, and progressive change is now at risk of being lost in the noise of their personal turmoil. Public skepticism is growing, and the silence surrounding their visa situation only adds to the mystery, further fueling suspicion. Without a clear, unequivocal response to the allegations and the legal battles they are embroiled in, Harry and Meghan risk alienating the very public that once supported them. As their situation becomes more dire, the possibility of a return to the UK seems increasingly likely, though it's no longer a victory, but a retreat. If they do return, it will not be met with open arms or a triumphant return to royal life. Instead, they would face a cold reception from both the royal family and the public. The very institution they once sought to break free from now seems more like a prison, and the people who once admired them now view them as betrayers. The public perception of Harry and Meghan has shifted dramatically since their departure from the UK, and their continued silence on the critical issues they face only deepens the divide. Their story, which was once one of ambition, rebellion, and a desire for independence, has now become one of unintended consequences. As the legal, moral, and personal contradictions pile up, the world watches with bated breath, eager to see what happens. Next, will they be forced back to the crown they left behind, or will they continue to fight their battles alone, across the Atlantic? The Sussex saga is now a cautionary tale, one of ambition taken too far, of rebellion met with unforeseen consequences, and of a couple who must now confront the reality of their decisions. The outcome remains uncertain, but the stakes are higher than ever before. Thank you for watching. This story, filled with unexpected twists and turns, continues to unfold, and the world is watching closely. Will Harry and Meghan's story find redemption, or will it continue its slow unraveling? Please share your thoughts with us in the comments, and we'll see you next time. Stay tuned.